First of all, we've obviously been, as a railway union, involved in the first wave of these cuts, which started, in fact, at the time of the collapse of the banking system. In 6 months after that, we suffered the loss of up to 10,000 jobs from the railway with immediate effect. The most dramatic of those incidences was the collapse of Jarvis up in the northeast in Scotland, with a loss of 1,500 compulsory redundancies. At the moment, London Underground is seeking a further 2,000 job cuts, and the RMT and the TSSA are uniquely united in strike action, which you've had 2 days of, in resistance to those cuts. So we find ourselves right in the forefront of that particular struggle. I haven't been able to actually look at all the details so far. I rely on other people for that kind of analysis. However, our position is very clear. We are resisting and fighting back against every single one of these job cuts and every single pound and penny off of public expenditure that is useful public expenditure. Of course, they cancelled Trident and pretended they weren't going to renew it. And if they were to cancel the useless aircraft carriers that won't have any aircraft on them, then of course we will be content that at least something useful was being cut, rather than the livelihoods and the very fabric of this country. Every time that we see one of these job losses, and every time we see tens of billions cut off public expenditure that is useful public expenditure, we see the deepening of misery, we see the destruction of everything that the welfare state stood for, and we feel a more bitter and nasty taste in the mouth at the kind of society that we're being dragged into by these people from Eton and the banking elite. We looked at the collapse in 2008, and we came together to actually put together the People's Charter, a charter for change. And it's copies of that up here. We have the leaders of 18 unions actually backing this charter, and we in fact took the TUC Congress by storm last September, where it was adopted by the whole of the trade union movement as a charter for change. And it's being actually worked through each of those unions at different paces, and I'm sure that that pace is going to accelerate dramatically. Obviously, we want to lend our weight in whatever way to the most united possible front of all of the organisations in the organised trade unions and labour movement, but also, and very vitally, inside the communities in which we all live. And indeed, we all pay taxes, surprisingly enough, for this government maybe, because they think that there's a difference between the public sector or railway workers. We don't seem to pay taxes. It's the taxpayer who pays us, by the way, apparently, for the privilege of running the railways. Anyway, we see this as being a start of a process to build for the TUC demonstration next spring in March, I believe it is. I'm not sure of the exact date, but this is the immediate next project, is to build that march into the biggest possible demonstration. Hundreds of thousands of people coming out and saying, we will not pay for this crisis, we can't pay for it, they should pay for it.
Thanks.